Greetings, Pokefans! Michael here, and welcome to my first top 10 in my new office in our new house with new lighting and a new bookshelf filled with both new and old plushies. I've said before that I'm set on Pokemon Talk guests for years. This is why. Pokemon Gold and Silver have just come out for the Virtual Console on the 3DS, and I'm sure many of you are excited to have another nostalgic trip back through the Johto region in the same games you played years before. However, many of you probably have never played these games before, myself included. I started playing Pokemon with Ruby, so I didn't really play the older ones, and the only time I've played through Johto was when Soul Silver first came out back in like 2010, I think, so for me, it's been a while. If you're like me, figuring out a team for a playthrough is one of the most fun aspects of playing through a Pokemon game. Now, some of you may be Johto experts, but many of you may be unfamiliar with what Pokemon are available in the Johto region. So I decided to make a top 10 counting down the top 10 best Pokemon to use in a playthrough of Johto. Now obviously, since this is a top 10 video, chances aren't that high that you're gonna use all 10 of these Pokemon. I mean, you might, you could rotate them around, but that'd be a lot of work. So just keep that in mind. You probably wanna pick and choose which Pokemon to use. Also, there's probably some Pokemon that would be very effective that I did not list here, so just keep that in mind that this list is mostly my opinion. So be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below some Pokemon you think would be great for a playthrough of Gold or Silver, and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, here are the top 10 best Pokemon to use for a playthrough of Gold or Silver. Number 10, Ho-Oh or Lugia. Now obviously here, whichever one you get depends on which game you're playing, so I decided to just lump them both in here because what I'm going to say about them is mostly the same. Ho-Oh is a very powerful fire-flying type Pokemon with a wide move pool, so it would definitely help you out a lot in your journey, especially if you already had a fire type and a flying type, and you catch Ho-Oh, and then you can replace them with one Pokemon lumped together. Lugia is great too, but honestly it's a bit worse than Ho-Oh because it doesn't get access to reliable stab attacking, because it doesn't get Future Sight until level 99, and Psychic is a post-game TM. But Lugia is still great because it has very, very strong defenses and hits hard as well. However, while Ho-Oh and Lugia are great, they are lower on this list for two main reasons. The first is that you can't get them until after you've defeated the 7th gym, so not being able to get them for a while in the game loses them a bit of points. But also the second reason is that a lot of people just don't like using legendaries in playthroughs, which I don't fall into that camp, but I totally understand if you do. Number 9, Poliwrath. Gold and Silver have many great options for water types all throughout the game, but in my opinion, Poliwrath is one of the better ones. One of the big reasons for that is that you can get it really early on in the game. Poliwag can be found as soon as you have the old rod, and that's pretty early. Then later when you have a Poliwhirl, if you evolve it at exactly level 35 with a Water Stone, it will learn Submission, a strong fighting type attack that will help a lot with Jasmine, Price, and Karen. It does have the quarter recoil damage, which is no bueno, but it's the only fighting type move it learns, so you're kind of stuck with it. Number 8, Umbreon. Dark typing is a great typing, especially in Gen 2 when it can help you out a lot handling Psychic and Ghost types. However, if you want a Dark type Pokemon on your team, Umbreon is literally your only option. I know, it is incredibly stupid that all of the fancy new Gen 2 Dark-type Pokemon like Houndoom, Sneasel, Murkrow, Tyranitar can only be found in Kanto or Mount Silver. What were they thinking? So if you want a Dark-type Pokemon to use for Morty or Will, Umbreon is literally your only option. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. Umbreon is an objectively cool Pokemon, but it does have a bit of downsides. It only gets one stab dark type move, and that's Feint Attack, which only has base 60 power, but that's probably okay since honestly with Umbreon, you're not gonna be OHKOing anything anyways since it's built more like a tank with fantastic defenses, but not as good attacking power. Umbreon also has a pretty reasonably wide TM move pool, so you could definitely get some coverage moves with it. You just have to keep in mind that the Friendship evolution is gonna be a large pain. But if you want a dark type, Umbreon's a definitely solid option. and also your only option. Number 7. Ampharos. One of the most beloved Johto Pokemon is also one of the most useful. Its electric type moves are really helpful early on, especially against Bugsy's Scyther. And later on in the game, it's useful against Chuck's Poliwrath, Price's Seal and Dugong, hits Claire's Kingdra for neutral damage, and is really good against several of Lance's Pokemon. So if you want a strong electric type to use on your team, Ampharos is definitely your best bet. Number 6. Fearow. If you want to have a flyer on your team, use Fearow. It is far stronger than Pidgeot, Noctowl, and Xatu, and other good flying types like Dodrio and Skarmory come way too late in the game. Its flying stab attacks are really great early on against Bugsy and later on against Chuck and Bruno. And while you will be stuck with Peck for a while, as soon as you get the HM for Fly and later when it levels up and learns Drill Peck, those are two of the best flying type moves in the game, so it's gonna hit pretty hard with those. It also gets several other solid moves like Pursuit, which can help with psychic types and Morty's Ghosts, especially Morty's Ghosts since Fearow is immune to ghost type attacks, and also it can get Steel Wing, which can be useful for countering rock and ice type Pokemon. Number 5, Alakazam! Sorry, I just think it's fun to say it like that. Psychic types were nerfed in Gen 2, but they are still very, very useful, especially Alakazam. You can get Abra very early on prior to the 3rd gym and evolve it pretty quickly into Kadabra. But what's great about the Virtual Console is that it's relatively easy to find somebody and trade evolve your Kadabra into Alakazam with. Therefore, you're gonna have a really powerful Psychic type Pokemon probably before you even fight Whitney. In addition to that, one great thing about Alakazam is that it can learn the elemental punches, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, which you can get in Goldenrod City at the store, and they're actually useful at this point in time, since they're special attacks. So you've got massively amazing coverage options on Alakazam at the 3rd gym. So definitely Alakazam is your best bet for a Psychic type. Number 4, Machamp. A fighting type Pokemon is something you are absolutely going to want on your team in Gold and Silver, since it's really useful against Chuck, Jasmine, Price, and Karen, and any other dark types you run into because bug type attacks still suck in this gen, so fighting's really your only effective counter against them. Like I mentioned earlier, Poliwrath is definitely a useful fighting type Pokemon, but Machamp outranks it substantially because you can get it so much sooner. In Goldenrod City, there's an available in-game trade where you give him a Drowsy, which is found right next to Goldenrod City, and he will give you a Machop. Then you immediately have a trade evolution, leveling up faster Machop that gets access to so many more fighting type moves and can immediately help you defeat Whitney. Plus, throughout its evolution, it gets access to better fighting type moves than Submission, like Karate Chop, Vital Throw, and Cross Chop. So if you want a fighting type Pokemon that's not gonna hurt itself every time it's punching something, then Machamp is definitely your best bet over Poliwrath at least. Number 3, Lapras. As I said before, there are many options for great water types in Gold and Silver, but Lapras is by far the best. The main reason for that is that Lapras is a water and ice type Pokemon. And while ice type normally hinders a Pokemon since it adds more weaknesses but doesn't add many resistances, it makes Lapras a heck of a lot better. The reason for that is that it gives Lapras Stab Ice Beam, a spectacular ice type attack that's base 95 power, and Lapras learns it at the relatively low level of 36. This is a big deal since dragon types are all over the place later game, especially with Claire and Lance. So having a powerful stab ice type attacking Pokemon is gonna help you a lot. Catching Lapras is a bit of a pain since you can't do it until after you've obtained Surf, which is the 4th gym. Then you have to go back to Union Cave on a Friday specifically, find it swimming around there and catch it at level 20. And then you have to catch it up to your party a little bit. So it's definitely gonna be a pain to get it, but I can promise you it will definitely be worth your time. Number 2, Steelix. Steelix, both as an Onix and as a Steelix, is an incredibly useful Pokemon very early game. in Violet City, the first gym town, you can do an in-game trade where you give them a Bellsprout in exchange for an Onix. Like the Machop, it has the benefit of being a traded Pokemon, so it's gonna level up a bit faster, but it also is just the perfect Pokemon for the first several gyms. It learns Rock Throw at level 14, which is pretty much its only good level up move, but that one move is great against Falkner and Bugsy. Then when you get to Whitney, while Rock isn't super effective against normal types, you're going to resist all of the normal type attacks and Miltank's rollout. So combine that with Onix's sky-high defense means you're gonna be able to outlast her no problem. Shortly after that, when you get to the National Park, you'll find the TM for Dig, a alright powered ground type move that Onix gets as Stab. This is gonna be great against Morty since Gen 2 means no abilities, means no Levitate, means that all of his Pokemon are weak to ground. So Onix is gonna have no problem digging under the ground and smacking them up into air and one-shotting them. Shortly after this, you'll want to evolve Onix into Steelix. Now, full disclosure, this is gonna be a giant pain, since there's no way to easily obtain a Metal Coat until after you've defeated the League. The only way you can find Metal Coat at this point is on Wild Magnemite, which only have a 5% chance of holding it, so just mentally prepare yourself for that. But I promise you it'll be worth it because Steelix continues to be great for several other trainers throughout the game. Steelix with Dig destroys Jasmine's Magnemites and her Steelix as well, especially since her Steelix doesn't have a ground type move to hit you with, so only you can hit with super effective damage. After the battle, Jasmine gives you the TM for Iron Tail, so there you go, strong stab move for Steelix, which is unfortunately not that accurate, but it's really your only option. And then Steelix continues to be great against the buttload of poison types that the Team Rocket grunts and executives have. And then once you get the TM for Earthquake in the Victory Road, it gets even better against Koga. Evolving it from an Onix into a Steelix might be a pain, but I promise you that it'll be worth the effort because Steelix is great all throughout your entire playthrough and it's gonna help you out a lot. Number 1. Typhlosion. Typhlosion is number 1, not because it's necessarily going to be more useful than some of the other Pokemon on this list, but because it's your starter and it's the most important decision at the beginning of the game. So I need it to be very clear to you that Typhlosion is the best Johto starter. Not just in appearance, but in how well it does in the battles. Real quick, we'll look at the other options. Chikorita is trash. It sucks against almost every gym and doesn't have a type advantage against any of them either, so don't use Chikorita. And Totodile's fine, you know? It's a solid water type, but as I mentioned before, there's lots of other water type options throughout the region, and many of them are better than Totodile. Cyndaquil is fantastic, especially in the early game, since it destroys the massive amount of wild bug and grass type Pokemon and will obliterate Bugsy. And it's nice to have in the later game as well, especially against Jasmine, such as her Magnemites and her Steelix, especially her Steelix since it has really low special defense. So if you want to make sure you pick the most effective starter for a playthrough of Gold and Silver, Cyndaquil is your go-to Pokemon, which makes me happy since it's also my favorite. So there we have it. Those are the top 10 best Pokemon to use for a playthrough of Pokemon Gold or Pokemon Silver. I am looking forward a lot to playing through these games because I think these are going to be some fun Pokemon to use, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, they're games I've never played before. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What are some other Pokemon that you think are great in a playthrough of Gold or Silver? Let me know down in the comments below! And if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, you should definitely subscribe for more fun Pokemon content of all kinds. Also, if you enjoyed my content here in this channel, you should definitely check out my content elsewhere, such as my Twitch channel where we do lots of fun live streams, my second channel where I do some non-Pokemon videos, and my Patreon where you can earn some cool behind-the-scenes perks for helping support me. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter. There's lots of important updates there, so do that. Alright, that's all I have for now, so till next time, Pokefans. Gotta catch them all!